moving right along to the Philadelphia Flyers. In the process of a rebuild right now. They were 7th in the Metro last year. 26 out of 32 teams. Last time in the playoffs, 2020, they lost in the second round. 150-1 to win the cup this year. They brought in Garnet Hathaway, Ryan Poling, Sean Walker, Mark Stahl, Victor Mite, Cal Peterson. They said adios to our buddy Hazy, James Van Riemsdyk, Brendan Lemieux, Ivan Provorov, Kevin Connaughton, Justin Braun, Tony DeAngelo. Lots of turnover there. Basically, let's go to you on this, Merle's first on this one. If they're in a total rebuild here, like what is, Torts do? Is he just trying to rebuild this culture? I mean, they're obviously not going to get to the playoffs. What's the mentality of guys on that type of team that you're not going to the playoffs? How do you approach that season?
Yeah, I mean, with Torts, it's totally different than what I went through when we were in a rebuild. He's going to still get the best out of him, and that's almost like a problem. It's going to be the same problem they had this year where they're going to not get the top 3 pick. They're going to end up winning enough games because he's got everybody blocking shots. He's got everybody going 100%, and that's what's going to happen with them. But, Jonesy's in there, Briere's in there. I think they're going to turn it around quicker than people think, but they're 29th ranked in my rankings.
Yeah, it's almost like if before the 2010-2011 season, there was a hockey podcast and they were doing their previews, and then you got to the Oilers, the team I was on, it's just like, it's going to be a tough one. Like, I mean, Owen Tippett's a fun player to watch, right? Is it Morgan Frost? Is it Morgan? Am I fucking that?
Yep.
Right?
Yep, that's it.
He showed some glimpses last year. That's a guy that you look to take a next step. As a Flyers fan, you want him to lose. I've said this a million times. It's tough going to a game wearing a jersey and rooting for your team to lose, but in the end, that is what will help them. And Merles puts it best. They'll probably end up finishing like with the 6th worst record in the league and get the 6th to 8th pick, and you just don't get that game breaker franchise changing player. And maybe without Torts pushing guys' buttons and expecting excellence, even though there's not much there, they would be top 3 bottom team. But it almost hurts them that he's there pushing these guys, getting the most out of them, because they won't be a pushover. As much as lack of skill they have, the work ethic will be there, and there'll be nights that they get trounced, but there'll also be games that they're in because of how hard they go. So not much expectations, more for fans to check out some younger players, hope guys make big steps. Cam York's a defenseman who obviously has a pretty good pedigree and where he was picked and coming up and becoming a pro, but there's just not much excitement.
Biz, Carter
I'm gonna save my energy. They're not making playoffs.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll save that question.
And just regurgitate what those guys said.
Me and G do not have them in as well. I just one thing I want to bring up, Carter Hart, not just because I have to say Carter Hart. He's heading into his 6th season. He's final year of his deal. He's going to be RFA, but I'm curious to see if he might get dealt. I mean, he's a top-notch goalie. They're in a rebuild. I don't know. Do you imagine he might want to get out of there, Biz? Like, he's been there 6-7 years, man. You don't want to be on a rebuild when you're 25 years old, do you?
Well, I don't think he has a ton of leverage in a sense of how he's played. I'm not throwing him under the bus either. It just hasn't been a very good team. It would probably be but it's also hard for another team to evaluate what he actually is, right? Like he hasn't played a lot of meaningful games. Maybe he did early when he first stepped in, but if I'm them, considering with maybe the numbers he's put up, I don't think you'd have to overpay him. So I would hang on to him until this team starts turning around, because like goalies, good goalies don't just come up that easily. So no, I would hang on to him.
All right, buddy.
There's other goalies that teams will be looking to go get rather than a guy like that. We talked about it. Gibson and then Hellebuck would be the first 2 off the list, in my opinion.